Hey everyone! Welcome to another episode of the Radium Girls. I'm Valerie.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we are bringing you a new episode.
Yes, we are.
I have no idea what this episode's about.
I don't know if I should put this in there.
Is it like
I don't remember what it's about.
Murder? Can you say that?
Yeah, it's a murder.
Ooh, we got a murder mystery.
I don't know how much mystery there is, but
right
we
now,
definitely have murder
mystery.
here. It's been so long, you guys. We missed you.
Yeah, for real.
Thank you for bearing with us through our break, and we're so glad that we're back. And if you didn't miss us, like you're watching these consistently now, and you didn't know we took a break, we took a break.
Yeah.
But we're back, and Happy New Year if you're watching this after the New Year.
Yes, and let's get into it.
Yes, let's
I'm ready.
The man who would kill Grace Millane was born in Wellington in December 1991 and brought up around the town of Peruria. I don't know where that's at.
91.
Yeah,
That's
91,
our year.
take a shot. At the age of 9, Kimpson's parents separated, and he became estranged from his mother, who moved overseas. In an interview with police during the investigation into Grace's disappearance, something shown to the court during his trial, Kimpson told officers he tried to re-establish contact with her, but that never worked out. The divorce, he said, caused him anxiety and depression. It was tough at the time, but through counseling, I got through it, Kimpson told the police. After briefly being in the care of his grandfather, Kimpson was raised by his father, who later remarried. At high school, Kimpson played softball at a regional representative level for multiple teams. Afterwards, he reportedly worked as a laborer and a bar attendant.
But something happened between Kimpson and his family that led him to cross a ditch to Australia, where his exact movements are unclear. Kimpson spent the years prior to his arrest moving between Auckland properties, frequently posting within Facebook groups for people hunting down flats. One former flatmate of Kimpson's told NewsHub soon after his arrest that while he was initially chatty and reasonably easy to live with, he eventually became aggressive. He had a lot of stories that very quickly stopped making sense, she told NewsHub. If you would ever question his stories, he would become incredibly defensive.
Sounds like a pathological liar.
Mm-hmm. The recounting of extravagant stories is consistently brought up by people who knew Kimpson. It honestly sounds like Casey Anthony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Many were heard by the court during his trial. That includes claims that he was an oil company manager, the cousin of a prominent all-black, that he had gang connections, was friends with police officers, and had cancer.
That sounds familiar.
Sounds very Casey Anthony.
At sentencing, Justice Simon Moore said a cultural report concluded Kimpson's childhood and upbringing has been affected by various traumatic influences, which impacted his transition to adulthood and ability to make good decisions and the right decisions. Justice Moore said Kimpson's volatile upbringing and cultural isolation may have led him to lie to those you wanted to impress by pretending you were a man of affluence and social standing. That appears to have been your modus operandi when attempting to impress the women you met. Kimpson eventually found work as a salesman and began renting a single-bedroom apartment at the Auckland City Life Hotel in October 2018, only months before he met Grace and murdered her there. His contract to live in the apartment was to last a year, but it was abandoned after his arrest. Earlier in the year, it was revealed Kimpson had been ordered by the tenancy tribunal to pay his landlord more than $5,000 due to damages to the apartment and unpaid rent.
The landlord has said he was caught off guard by an investigation into Kimpson, who he hadn't considered violent. It was his understanding the killer was on a salary of about $150,000 a year.
Must be nice.
Right? Prior to being found guilty of killing Grace, Kimpson had just 2 relatively minor traffic convictions. The woman who met Kimpson after he arrived back in New Zealand in 2016 told NewsHub they came across each other on Tinder and had mutual friends within the softball community. After hearing what she now describes as sob stories about his living situation, she decided to let him crash at her flat while he found his feet. I felt sorry for him. I introduced him to my flatmates. There was never going to be anything there, but I felt bad for him and the softball community. We all look after each other and we all knew the same people. We had probably crossed paths before. The woman who News Hub won't name says, but quickly things began not to add up.
One minute he was living in a motel, paying up to $1,000 a week, and the next he was being kicked out of his flat, she said. She told her flatmates numerous elaborate stories, including that he was an All Blacks cousin and was looking to purchase shares in a prominent Auckland Viaduct restaurant with his uncle. For those who may not know, because we did have to look this up, when we're referring to the All Blacks, we're referring to a very successful rugby team in New Zealand. So, actually, it's the most successful rugby team of all time. But that's what we're referring to, and I tried to look for what specifically they're referring to as far as like him referring that he's their cousin. We're assuming maybe somebody on the team's cousin that he claims he is. He was kind of the biggest and the best with everything that he had. His parents were kind of estranged to him. He was over here working for his dad, but he didn't know much about what they were doing. The woman told News Hub that Kimpson stayed with her for several days before suddenly gathering up his belongings and leaving. Later, however, he rang to ask if he could head back and borrow a towel, which she allowed. When she returned home, she found an emergency stash of money she kept in a pile of towels was gone. According to the woman, Kimpson denied stealing the cash, and she didn't go to the police about it at the time. But she did delete all connection with the man and tried to move on with her life.
Why are you gonna hide it in some towels?
Yeah, for real. Like, what?
I feel like there's some better places that's not, like, public for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Like in the like Joey and Friends, he said he hid his, they asked him what he's been doing with his money, and he's got it taped in a bag. It's in a bag taped inside of his toilet. Oh. Like in the back of his toilet. Like, I mean, that is a better place than freaking towels. Mm-hmm. Nobody's gonna look there.
Yeah, for real.
Anyways.
However, following Grace's disappearance, the woman came across a link between Kimpson and the British backpacker. When she was missing, I clicked on her Facebook profile and saw he had commented. It was like he is probably capable of that, she told News Hub. Me and my flatmates wouldn't put that past him. It was sickening for the woman. It was awful. We just went back to all of the things we thought about him at the time, and it brought back all those old memories. I don't know how to describe it, she says. You just kind of went numb and thought, actually, as unlucky as I was to lose that money, I am so lucky to still have everything else. She told the story to Auckland police in January 2019 and hoped at the time that other woman who had encountered Kimpson would come forward when his name was released. I am sure the kind of guy that he was a good-looking dude and said all the right things. There would have been a lot of people in between me and Grace. They probably got caught up in his web of lies.
Kimpson told police during their investigation into Grace's disappearance he was a big drinker. He would frequently meet women for drinks, including on one date at a bar on December 2nd, 2018, at the same time Grace's body was lying in his apartment. The date came about after a stream of messages from Kimpson. Prior to meeting him, he seemed normal and nice, but very persistent and messaging multiple times in a row, even when I hadn't replied, the woman who cannot be named told the News Hub following the November 2019 trial. On the day we met up, he did say that if I wasn't feeling up for meeting him, then that was okay, but I went ahead and met him anyway. During the date, she said he seemed aloof. He seemed a little nervous and fidgety. He did a lot of talking during the date and became very entranced when telling certain stories about his work for a supermarket chain, how snakes can kill you in Australia, and how he knew of someone who accidentally killed their partner during rough sex.
Oh,
what?
It's very random.
And yeah. Yeah.
Snakes can also kill you in other places.
Yeah, not just Australia.
Fun fact.
That's funny.
Okay. He was engaged during the date, but he wasn't really interested in forming a connection. It felt like he was preoccupied with his own thoughts and stories. The date lasted about an hour and a half, but when they left, she felt uncomfortable. I left at the end of the day after we said goodbye. He was going to walk down the street my car was parked on, but something was off, so I lied and said my car was down another street.
That might have saved her life.
Yeah. It was a general intuition that I didn't feel safe with him, as he was so much bigger than me and his stories were so out there. Gotta watch out for that. Looking back on the date more than a year later, the woman says he was odd. He looked very different from his online dating profile. Oh, that's a red flag.
Yeah, catfish.
I got the sense he was hiding something and that he had to keep up a slight facade. It was uncomfortable to be around him, and I sensed he could be the type that would spike my drink. Ooh.
That's scary.
That is scary. And if they said he is, like, handsome, why was he catfishing out there?
Maybe it was his picture, but, like, maybe the pictures was, like, it looked like he was more lively, more interesting of a person. I don't know.
More not weird.
Not disheveled. Maybe he was disheveled during the date. I don't know. Grace Millane was from Wickford, Essex, and she had recently graduated from the University of Lincoln with a bachelor's degree in advertising and marketing and was on a backpacking tour during her gap year. It's going to have to work. Grace was on a 2-week stay in New Zealand after spending 6 weeks in South America. She entered New Zealand on November 20th, 2018, and traveled around the Upper North Island. She arrived in Auckland on November 30th. At 9 p.m. on the 1st of December, she was seen in Victoria Street in Auckland's Central Business District, and 15 minutes later she was seen via CCTV at Sky City. She was last seen at 9:41 p.m. at the City Life Hotel on Queen Street with Jesse Kimpson.
Yes.
There's his first name.
Oh, Jesse.
Oh. What were you about to say?
I was going to say, I always thought it'd be, like, so cool to go backpacking. Backpacking, but then things like this always pop up.
I know. Grace's parents became concerned after she did not reply to birthday wishes they sent her on December 2nd, 2018, and police started investigating after she was reported missing 3 days later. The hotel she was staying at reported that she did not go back to her room on the night of her disappearance. Police initially said that there was no evidence of foul play, but later gathered evidence that she was no longer alive. Police announced on December 8th that they were treating the case as a homicide investigation. Within days of her disappearance, police had identified Kimpson as the prime suspect and managed to track his movements by trawling through CCTV. Miss Grace's body was discovered in the mountainous area, having been stuffed into a suitcase by Kimpson and buried.
Dang.
That's sad.
Man, sometimes it just sucks of being female. Can't do nothing.
I know.
Said someone out there trying to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do nothing.
Mm-mm.
The killing prompted New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to apologize to Miss Grace's parents, David and Gillian, saying, "Your daughter should have been safe here. She wasn't, and I'm sorry for that." During the murder trial in Auckland in 2019, the 12-person jury was shown footage of Grace and Kimpson seemingly enjoying each other's company around the city on a date. They were seen on CCTV returning to his hotel, City Life, where Kimpson later strangled Grace in his room.
Sad.
Dang. For much of his 3-week trial for the murder of Grace, Kimpson looked stony-faced, occasionally glancing down at the court papers in the dock and turning a page. At times, when the evidence was particularly graphic, he would hold his head in his hands. When the verdict was delivered, Kimpson stared straight ahead before being sent out of the courtroom for a few minutes. He returned, red-faced and rubbing his eyes as if he had been crying, a rare glimpse of emotion, perhaps. But part of you could not help feel it was all a performance. In his police interviews, he had reeled off a litany of lies, and not just about his own actions, but those of Miss Grace, until he was confronted with evidence to the contrary. The jury's verdict was the rejection of his ultimate lie, one he had hoped to get away with.
In October, Kimpson was convicted of 8 charges relating to various attacks, including using a knife against a woman between November 2016 and April 2017. The woman said something inside of him snapped when he got angry and said he had held a knife to my throat. In November, Kimpson was convicted by a separate judge sitting alone of raping another woman on their first and only date in April of 2018. She told the court, "I was just frozen and I let him do what he needed to do so I could try and go to sleep or go home as soon as possible." Damn. Kimpson, who had worked in various sales jobs, met both of the women through the dating app Tinder, as he had met Grace. The 11-year jail term for these 9 offenses, all committed while he was living in Auckland, will be served concurrently with his sentence for Miss Grace's murder. On Friday, Kimpson's appeal against his conviction and sentence for Grace's murder was dismissed. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury, which consisted of 7 women and 5 men, returned a verdict of guilty on November 22, 2019, after deliberating for 5 hours. The verdict was welcomed by Grace's parents, David, who subsequently died of cancer in November of 2020, and Jillian.
Several members of the jury reportedly wept following the verdict. In New Zealand, murder carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 10 years, except when such a sentence would be manifestly unjust, for example, mercy killings. Judges have discretion to order a long non-parole period. He doesn't need any parole. On February...
hold on. I didn't know they did that, like, with the manifestly unjust, like a mercy killing.
I don't even know what I was talking about.
They're talking about his sentence is, the minimum is non-parole of 10 years for just murder. Mm-hmm. That's what murder carries. But then, of course, except whenever it's a manifestly unjust, like a mercy killing. Isn't like a mercy killing like putting somebody out of their misery?
I would think so.
Or not necessarily that, but like maybe you're getting raped and you kill that person. That's like mercy. What is a mercy killing? Now I'm curious. I'm just wondering why a mercy killing would be... Oh... Yeah, so basically killing someone because they can't do suicide.
Okay.
Like doctors carry them out.
There's this guy on Kill Tony. He has Lou
Gehrig's?
I think that. And wait, he has one where they did the ice bucket challenge.
ALS.
Yeah, he has that, and maybe he has. Same thing?
No, what is ALS?
But anyway, he's on there, and he's like, can't really understand a lot of what he says, but he's freaking hilarious.
Oh, it is Lou Gehrig's.
And he's kind of cute. But he was supposed to go and get Mercy killed or whatever, because like he's
dying.
Yeah.
And in pain.
Yeah, but then he canceled it. And he did like the show a couple weeks ago. And then, but I think he's moving somewhere. So I don't know if he's going to like live out his life or he's going to do it again.
Wow.
Do it again. Yeah, I was like, what? He's hilarious. I'm going to have to show you some of his stuff.
Yeah. That's sad. I had no idea.
He's
so like
funny.
they can pay somebody to mercy kill you?
I think he's doing it at like an off-doctor place.
Oh. Wow, that's crazy. Because, they would just they could just dope him up on morphine and give him something to...
I think he said assisted suicide or something.
It's what? Assisted suicide?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I guess you have to meet a certain criteria for that, though.
Yeah. I think
you just don't kill anybody.
Better. On February 21st, 2020, Kimpson was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum non-parole period of 17 years. On March 18th, it was reported that Kimpson would appeal his conviction and the sentence at the Court of Appeal. You don't need no appeal.
No.
The appeal hearing began in Auckland on August 6th. On December 18th, 2020, the Court of Appeal dismissed the appeal, although the Supreme Court ordered that name suppression should remain in place until a further court order. That same day, it was reported that taxpayers had paid more than $400,000 in New Zealand money.
I don't know.
And Kempson's legal aid. I don't know if that's allowed or not. Probably is.
Yeah, probably.
Probably if they're mentioning them. On June 29th, 2021, the Supreme Court dismissed Kempson's application for leave to appeal the verdict, thereby exhausting his legal avenues to overturn his conviction.
I mean, what did he expect was going to happen? He freaking murdered somebody.
You don't deserve an appeal.
No, not one bit. That's crazy.
You're guilty. Okay.
Guilty.
Guilty as charged.
Yes. Well, yeah, that's our story for today. And that's sad what happened to Grace Millane. And I'm glad he's off the streets. Yes. I don't think that he should have only gotten the 17 years. I think he should have gotten a lot more.
That's 17 without parole, right?
Non-parole. A minimum non-parole of 17 years.
Man, y'all better keep him in there.
Yeah, I don't know if that means that he did get more or what, but...
That's just non-parole year. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the system.
I mean, he was born in December of 91, so that puts him 31 years old now.
Dang.
He just turned 31 years old. So this happened in 2000, what did it say, 18?
I think so.
But he didn't get sentenced until 2020, so that puts him, oh God, what year are we in? 20, okay, so let's say 2022, so that puts him 20, he's 31? 29. There we go. 29 whenever he got convicted and stuff, so plus...
I was like, where are you going
15,
with this?
30, 45. That means he would be 45, about 45 whenever...
So still young enough to murder.
Huh?
Still young enough to murder.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. No doubt. I mean, that's fucked up.
So keep him in prison.
Yeah. I mean, especially if, like, I just can't. Like, he could have turned into a serial killer.
Yeah.
That's what his path was leading down.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was doing some bad stuff.
Yeah, he just may not have gotten to, like, his rhythm or whatever they do. Like,
and just not getting caught, too. Until he got caught.
Yeah. So, that's so sad. May she rest in peace. That's horrible.
Yes. Mm-mm. Be careful on Tinder.
For real. On any dating site.
Backpacking. Just be careful being a female, okay?
Yeah, be careful being a female.
A free female.
Yeah. Well, I guess males too. I mean, look at Dahmer.
I mean...
Victims.
Yeah, but like...
Look at Dahmer's victims.
I'm like...
My bad.
Like, what about Dahmer?
Yeah. Just be careful being a human out there.
But mostly females.
Yeah.
Guys are stronger.
They are. Yeah, that's true.
Just automatically, and it's not fair.
Mm-hmm. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tried to type to you today, and that did not happen.
What?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Oh, like she's so excited.
It's just like, yeah, like, just fuck yeah. Like, just, yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know. I was hyped earlier. Like, I don't know what that was about.
It's like, damn.
Don't know. Don't ask me.
She's excited about that one.
Oh, my head hurts. Well, take another BC powder before bed.
Let's end it.
So yeah, I thank you for listening to our story today, and we hope that you enjoyed our commentary. And it's a sad story, but still hope that you enjoyed listening to it. I don't know if that's proper. Like, should you enjoy listening to a story about a woman get murdered? I mean,
I know it's like whenever you say like, I love like true crime or whatever. I'm like, but can I say that?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
I guess what the proper saying.
I don't know.
It fascinates me.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions for any stories that you'd like for us to do, leave them in our comment section down below on our YouTube channel. We also have a Facebook and an Instagram and an email. If y'all want to, if you're old school, you can email us. But you can find us at the Radium Girls Podcast on all the platforms. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of them. And let us know what you think. Tell us some suggestions. Give us a subscribe, a like, rate us. Think there's ratings on some of the podcasts now?
Radium?
Huh?
Radium?
Radium?
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Oh, no.
You're like, rate us?
Rate us? Rate us for the Radium Girls.
Rate us for Radium.
Yeah.
Ratings for Radium.
Ooh, ratings for Radium.
Just let me like that.
Ratings for Radium.
Yay.
Okay. Yeah, anyways, so that's our story. We will see you guys hopefully next week. I'm so sorry if you don't see us next week. Either way, we'll be back. But yeah, and as always,
stay curious.